And it is 3 o'clock, so call the meeting to order, and we'll start by introducing ourselves. I'm Kathy Sheehan, Mayor of the City of Albany.
Mike Arthur, Regional Director, DOT, Albany.
Frank Caro, CEO, CDTA.
Tom Houlihan, City of Rensselaer, representing Mayor Michael Stammel.
Mike Butler, Mayor Mechanicsville.
Linda Vonderhead, representing Rensselaer County Executive Steve McLaughlin.
Mike Burdette, Thruway Authority, representing Phil Serafino.
Andrew Krushik, City Controller, representing Mayor Carmel Patella.
Bill Barrett, Saratoga County.
Andrew Stommings, representing Town and Colony Supervisor Peter Fleming.
And Mike Salmon, representing Albany County's County Executive.
Larry Schillinger, representing the Capital District Regional Planning Commission.
Mike Williams, Director of Planning, CDTA.
And Sandy Miswitz, Executive Director of the Transportation Council. Okay.
Mark Stiglione with the Regional Planning Council.
Jim DeJoy, Public.
Adam McCorville, Transportation Council.
Martin Hall, Transportation Council. And Frank Richard, New York State DOT.
Chris Desney, Chief Operating Officer, CDTA.
Rich Strott, Mayor of Voorheesville.
And listening virtually, and participating virtually, Mayor John Safford from the City of Saratoga Springs, Rory Fluman from Schenectady County, Ethan Townsend from the Transportation Council, Carrie Ward from the Transportation Council, and Leah Rye from the Transportation Council. Great. We don't have anyone registered to speak, but does anybody from the public want to speak? Oh, okay. And are we doing the presentation first and then approving minutes? Yep. Okay, great. So we did invite our team from CDTA. So it looks like Mike and Chris, maybe you're doing a little tag team presentation today, mainly you.
Yeah, I'll be delivering it. Did you want to say any words beforehand?
Not at all.
Okay.
Mike, you can go ahead and jump right in.
Works for me.
Thank you.
So while Sandy is queuing up the presentation, again, Mike Williams, Director of Planning, and I'm here to talk about CDTA's recently updated and adopted transit development plan, UP fleet. Once that is queued, we'll get us to the first slide. Oh, we made it to the end.
Oh, right.
That was great.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Oh,
That was
there we go.
fast. Special. There you go.
You can go ahead and advance the first slide.
Sure.
So what is a transit development plan? Well, it is a comprehensive document that outlines CDTA's short, medium, and long-term goals, strategies, and actions for improving our services. Many of CDTA's successful projects and initiatives over the years have either originated in a previous TDP or were prioritized ones. So things like bus rapid transit, bike share, car share, route restructurings, and so on. This latest update will be our third TDP, building on the successes of our previous update in 2014. And crucially, the TDP considers the changes that have taken place in recent years, and it updates our strategies to adapt to the new trends and needs. Next slide, please. So what has changed since the previous TDP in 2014? Quite a bit. On our end, we've built out our 40-mile vision for bus rapid transit in the region with the completion of the red, blue, and now purple lines. We've implemented new mobility products such as CDPHP Cycle, our bike share program, Flex, which is our micro transit service, and Drive, which is our car share program. We've built a considerable amount of infrastructure around the capital region, in addition to BRT, including things like mobility hubs, which are combined bus stops with enhanced infrastructure that connect to our various mobility products, as well as things like upgrades to operating facilities to accommodate our increasing fleet and new vehicle types. In addition to CDTA's own actions and accomplishments, the environment we work in has also changed. The cost of running transit has gone up here, as it has all around the country. The operating subsidies that we receive have not yet increased by a corresponding amount, which is not anyone's fault, but it is a fact that we have to adapt to. We've also felt the effects of a nationwide shortage of bus operators, which makes it more difficult to cover scheduled work, although this has significantly improved in 2025. And lastly, of course, the COVID pandemic significantly shifted ridership and commuting trends in the capital region, as with nearly everywhere else. Next slide, please. So here's a summary of how we developed the TDP over the past 2 years or so. started with a robust data collection phase to understand our transit system at the route by route level and down to the stop by stop level. We then went to the public as well as internal and external stakeholders to understand the community's needs. And we used our findings from that to develop strategic principles for the TDP, as well as concepts for future service design. We took these concepts back to the public again in 2024 for their feedback and made adjustments accordingly based on that. And finally, with the outreach phase complete, we developed the recommendations and standards that form the bulk of the TDP document itself. Next slide, please. So our recommendations are guided by a set of strategic principles, which themselves kind of build off of CDTA's existing strategic plan. The strategic principles state what sorts of problems we intend to address around the region and what values we'll prioritize when we're making changes to our system. And these are at a high level: ridership and impact, diversity of services, supporting cities, providing regional leadership, engagement with the public, safety, of course, simplicity, legibility for service, image, as well as a team focus and supporting our employees. Next slide, please. So from the strategic principles, we then developed planning and operating principles. These go essentially one level deeper into greater detail on how we intend to implement our strategic principles. And these are organized by our various service types. So fixed route service, that's our regular bus routes. Flex is our microtransit service. Star, paratransit service for people with disabilities. CDPHP cycle, our bike share service, and as well as Drive, our car share program. Finally, from the planning and operating principles, we have specific recommendations broken out by each one of our service types. So with fixed routes, which is a majority of what we operate, our immediate priority is meeting our fiscal budget. This is being implemented right now through a service rebalancing initiative, which is bringing the scale of our system within our capacities to sustainably operate, both in terms of our fiscal budget as well as our driver headcount. Unfortunately, this does mean reductions to coverage and service levels in low ridership areas, which you may have heard about. But we're also looking creatively at different concepts to make the system work better for as many people as possible. This includes service concepts such as a frequent network. That's refocusing our low ridership services, such as neighborhood routes and flex, to connect the frequent routes and take advantage of their existing capacity. Only deviating routes off of the main roadway when more customers would be benefited from that type of a deviation than inconvenienced. Or things like splitting excessively long routes into two routes, which allows us to more closely tailor the service levels to ridership levels on each segment. In the realm of service coverage, a greater focus on our existing and most successful corridors. Previous TDPs focused more on service expansion with things like the BRT build out and expansion to new counties. This TDP is more focused on honing our current system and getting as much out of it as we possibly can. Initiatives like expanding coverage to new communities and new counties are certainly still being looked into, but their implementation will depend on the ability of additional funding to cover it. Next slide, please. Then we have recommendations for infrastructure throughout our entire system. And this includes all our amenities on the street, like bus stops and shelters. We intend to we'll be investing in infrastructure throughout the entire region, but we intend to generally prioritize our investments on a network of high frequency, high ridership routes shown on the map on the upper right, which is basically our 3 BRT corridors plus a set of trunk and neighborhood routes with high ridership. These types of improvements can include everything from priority measures that speed up the bus as it makes its way down its route, to safety and comfort measures that improve the experience of getting to the bus stop and then waiting for the bus to arrive. We're continuing to prioritize our amenities like shelters and benches based on ridership levels. And we're also going to continue to invest in mobility hubs, which again are basically enhanced bus stops with better infrastructure and connections to our various mobility products. And pursue implementation of our existing facilities improvement plan, which has recommendations of its own to improve our both our street infrastructure as well as our big operating facilities. Last but not least, in line with our principle of expanding public engagement, we want to provide more real-time information in the future using the screens we have near our mobility hubs as well as our infotainment screens on buses. Next slide, please. Next, we have recommendations for Flex, which is our microtransit service. Now, microtransit is sort of a fusion of the service models of regular transit versus a ride-sharing service like Uber or Lyft. It allows customers to book trips on demand within a predetermined service area. We rolled out Flex in the Colony and Guilderland area in 2020, and in the past 5 years, we've learned a lot on how to plan and operate it efficiently. Namely, we've learned that microtransit works best in areas with low transit potential but moderate to high transit demand. And what that means is generally smaller communities that are more automobile oriented in their demographics and less transit supportive in terms of the built environment, but still have a large transit dependent population that needs continued access to our service. So we're now targeting Flex to specific cases that it works well for, including preservation of coverage when we have low performing fixed routes that nonetheless we have to provide some level of transit service, feeder service connecting outlying areas to our fixed routes, and one that we haven't implemented just yet, but we still are keeping in our tool belt, late night service after our fixed routes have stopped running. And lastly, we're also making Flex zones a bit smaller and more compact and constraining pickup locations to predefined points. Now, we obviously want to provide as many options as possible with all our service, but having an excessively large zone where people can book rides between any points, regardless of whether they're, whether they're easy to get to, can result in high operating costs and high wait times. So by reserving Flex for smaller, more compact areas, we're able to make the service more efficient overall and also reduce wait times. Next, we have STAR. Again, that's our paratransit service for folks with disabilities. For the most part, we're going to continue running STAR like we have, but with a greater focus on efficiency and reliability. And we want to accomplish this through a couple of measures. One is we're going to look into dispatching STAR trips from all of our garages around the region. Currently, STAR trips only dispatch from our Albany garage. And while that certainly works very well in Albany, in order to deliver trips elsewhere in the region, Schenectady, Saratoga, wherever, it requires us to take long trips with no passengers in the vehicle, which is called the deadhead. And that's obviously less efficient than service where someone's already in the vehicle. So by dispatching STAR from all of our operating facilities, we are able to reduce that deadhead time and provide the same service more efficiently. Then commingling of STAR paratransit and Flex microtransit trips. So STAR and Flex have very similar operating characteristics at the end of the day. You are telling CDTA when you want to be picked up, where you want to be picked up, where you want to be dropped off, and it is on demand rather than, it's a demand response service rather than a fixed route service. So either trip type could be hypothetically provided by the same driver and vehicle, which would allow us to deliver the same amount of trips to the same number of people more efficiently. And lastly, evaluating client and trip availability throughout our system. We, of course, want to provide paratransit service to everywhere that's eligible, but we want to make sure we're only running STAR trips where they are actually required by ADA and ensure that our STAR service area is regularly updated to correspond to our fixed routes, which is what it's based off of. Next slide, please. Our recommendations for CDPHP Cycle and Drive are somewhat similar to one another. In the case of Cycle, we currently operate only basically 3 seasons out of the year, excluding, of course, winter. That makes some sense given the weather, certainly, but we're also looking into the potential for year-round service in the future because we want to grow Cycle into more of a viable transportation alternative for people without a car, which obviously means at some points you're going to need to make trips during the winter. For both products, we're still looking into developing additional monitoring standards because these are both fairly young technologies with limited research to date. So there's more work to be done on that. And lastly, we want to make sure that these products are available equitably throughout the region. And to do that, we're looking into things like discounted fares for folks who live in public housing, in this case, the Albany housing. Next slide, please. Then the TDP also builds upon and expands the standards that we use to evaluate our own performance and also guide future changes. So there are service standards, first for our fixed routes. And these set forth targets for things like ridership, service levels, on-time performance, as well as new standards for Star Paratransit and our new mobility options. And we're continuing to develop additional standards for those as well. There are also infrastructure standards that guide things like how often or how closely we space our stops, depending on context, or when we would decide to add an amenity like a bus shelter or a bench. We've added standards for the design and implementation of the various technologies that we've implemented around their system, such as transit signal priority, real-time information, queue jumpers, the audio announcements and text readouts on our buses, signage, and so forth. And we're continuing to evaluate the land use and development characteristics of the communities we serve or potentially could serve, recommending that we focus service on areas where the built environment is most transit supportive. Next slide, please. In addition to the primary recommendations and standards that I just described, we also have a number of recommendations that don't fit neatly in any of the above, but are important on their own. For example, we need to plan for expanded garages and operating facilities to accommodate things like our expanding fleet, alternative fuels, or any future service expansions in the future. We also want to continue to provide leadership on land use and design decisions, making recommendations based on the land use standards we've set forth. We intend to improve and simplify our fare payment process, which is a common request. To do this, we're looking into things like expanding what you can do on our app. We're looking into things like, our Navigator app, things like open payment, which allow customers to pay their fares through a simple tap of a credit or debit card, which you might have seen on some other transit authorities around the country. Then, in keeping with our principle of expanded engagement, we intend to solicit feedback through things like putting QR codes on our bus shelters, allowing customers out in the field to comment live on their conditions rather than, when they come home and may or may not actually remember it. And lastly, our goal is for as much of our system as possible to meet a quote gold standard of service. And what this means is a combination of frequent fixed routes and other mobility options where it becomes possible to live and work without owning a personal vehicle. We tend to develop things like a map to help people understand where our services are most robust so that individuals considering moving within or into the region, or potentially businesses looking at locating a new facility, can bring transit accessibility into their decision. Next slide, please. So before I close, an update on our progress. So as I said, the TDP was adopted by our board this past September, so it is now in effect, and it is now being implemented. The system service rebalancing initiative that we're currently in the middle of includes many service concepts from the TDP. In particular, adjustments to our flex service this past May, and now just a few days ago, we made updates to our flex system in May, we updated it in the original Guilderland and Colony zone and in our southern Saratoga zone. And then just this past week, we replaced two unproductive fixed routes in Saratoga Springs with flex service, which is allowing us to continue to provide the same level of service more efficiently. So there's more to come on that. This doesn't concern this particular MPO's area because it's Glens Falls, but we did take over services in Glens Falls back in 2024. Since then, we've been more or less operating it as it was. Recently added a route connecting Saratoga Springs directly to downtown Glens Falls. And in 2026, we'll be using the TDP to help guide service adjustments to the other routes in Glens Falls. And then lastly, we're going to continue to advance our priority infrastructure projects around the region, starting with the Red Line upgrade. So the Red Line was built back in 2011. At the time, we were more limited in our ability to make improvements to the infrastructure around stations or the street network and pedestrian infrastructure. With the blue and purple lines recently, they've been built to what I would call a higher standard of BRT infrastructure, with things like the snow melting, the slow melting sidewalks, which are in front of the shelters, larger bump outs, for example, to allow people to more safely cross the street. In the case of phase one of the Red Line upgrade, we're going to be introducing segments of bus lanes for the first time in this region. So we're more or less trying to bring the Red Line up to the standard, and actually past it in some ways, that we recently introduced on the blue and purple lines. Then there's the West facility, which will replace our existing facility in Schenectady to accommodate larger and new types of vehicles and also accommodate any potential new service expansions in the future. We're going to continue to invest in mobility hubs around the region. And lastly, kind of one size down from a mobility hub, one thing that we're always in the process of doing is looking at mid-sized infrastructure. And what that means is upgrading existing bus stops to be more pedestrian friendly and safe. Or perhaps there's a place where we would like to provide service, but we can't safely because there isn't the infrastructure like a sidewalk or a loading pad to put a bus stop there. So one thing that we're always doing and working with our municipal partners on is basically projects that are one size up from just putting a bus stop sign on the ground, but one step down from a full mobility hub. Slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. So I have any questions. Thank you. Yes.
Just curious, since Flex went into service, how is CDTA defining the service and how does it differentiate itself from ride services?
To differentiate itself from ride services. Well, it is similar to rideshare services in the sense of the basic model that's being provided, and that you request a ride, you're picked up, and you're dropped off at a place that you request as well. We provide significantly lower price than rideshare services. It's a standard $1.50 base fare, same as our regular buses. Kind of the trade-off though is that you might not get the bus won't arrive necessarily as fast as an Uber or Lyft ride might arrive for the same trip. The difference is, depending on how far you're going, Uber and Lyft rides, I think they start upwards of $10 and go from there. So it is sort of a midway point between regular fixed route service and rideshare service.
Is there a maximum wait time for that? I mean, is it,
We-
you won't have to wait more than 30 minutes or 45 minutes?
We certainly we do everything possible to keep it under 60 minutes, and ideally our target is 30. Obviously, we can't prepare for every potential disaster that might happen and could potentially slow down service worse than that. However, we currently have average wait times are generally in the 15 to 20 minute range. We basically never have it longer than 60 minutes, which did used to happen because our flex zones used to be so large. So while hypothetically a 60-minute wait could happen if a ton of people flooded the zone all at once, or something else happened that prevented us from operating normally, we maybe short of a guarantee, almost every time we're going to provide a flex ride within 60 minutes.
The new service we just rolled out there in Saratoga is earlier this week. The new zone that Mike described, we're averaging 13 minutes.
But just for planning purposes,
Yes,
Yeah.
we strive.
people should know,
Yes.
to give themselves time.
You'll know immediately in the app either.
Right.
Yep, you'll know up front
Yeah.
what the estimate.
No, I've seen some comments and people expressing skepticism.
Mhm.
But it seems like, it's quickly followed by somebody who said, oh, no, they came and it worked. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Mike,
Do you deploy flex for special events like something around the time you had the MVP center?
We certainly have the ability to. It's not something that we, have done recently necessarily.
Concert.
But one example where we probably will in the future is, so we recently expanded Flex to Saratoga Springs. We're running that right now with, I think, 2 buses throughout the day, but we have the ability to basically throw additional resources at it for special events. So certainly when, for example, track season comes around this summer, we'll have the ability to vary the amount of resource we commit to it based on the level of demand going up or down. And other special events, we could certainly look into flex options as well.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
You had
No, Larry goes for me.
Okay.
Oh, well, I defer, but thanks. Couple things. One is, you mentioned that and this is something I really sort of mentioned in the past, is on the red line.
Mhm.
BRT, bus lanes, are those dedicated bus lanes?
Mhm.
Red line goes where? I'm doing something.
The red line runs along Route 5 from downtown Schenectady all the way to downtown also.
Central Avenue.
Central Avenue and State Street.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's great.
Yes, we are very excited.
Okay, I've always felt that that's where BRT really excels,
Mhm.
is when you can bypass
Yeah, we were
traffic.
very excited to roll out the purple line because it was the first example of continuous bus-only infrastructure in the capital region. That one was a little bit easier because it was sort of a roadway that was already off the beaten path and didn't have a ton of traffic on it. But we were looking to use the bus lane segments in Schenectady as sort of an informal demonstration to show, hey, when you do your homework, you look at the total capacity of the road and you make sure that everyone's needs are considered, that you can do things that might seem, I guess, radical, but as compared to the existing status quo of how, say, lanes are allocated. But at the end of the day, it works. It
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
slow anything
I mean,
down.
I've always felt that if you're sitting in a car, stuck in traffic, and your rapid transit alternative is passing by.
Yeah, it gets the
that's
gears
click.
turning in your
That's the
head.
click. So that's great. The other thing is on the flex program, is there in the suburban area? One of the challenges, and probably one of the barriers, is getting from your home to the bus stop.
Sure.
Okay, especially this time of year.
Mhm.
Is there any way to integrate the flex service with the mobility hubs? So that someone could take the flex to the mobility hub and then complete the trip? Is there?
Yes, absolutely. We don't have mobility hubs right now that are tied to flex service. Where they happen to be located just isn't in flex zones, but that is one of the intended main roles of a mobility hub, is to connect people from sort of the further afield last mile areas
Yes.
into our system and connect them to our frequent services. So absolutely, in the future, I envision flex zones that are handling the more low demand areas on the periphery of our service area and funneling that into the trunk lines, the BRT lines and so forth.
Great.
I just want to make a comment. And I applaud you, CTA, for underscoring your commitment to land use. In our recent analysis of the municipalities that are building the most high density apartment complexes, none of them actually have a zoning district which allows them. So wouldn't it be great if we could encourage those municipalities to zone areas along BRT for denser housing developments? Because right now they're not being built there.
Gotcha.
That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Presentation.
Thank you.
You all should have received the meeting minutes from our September 4th, 2025 meeting in advance. Are there any comments, questions, changes?
I move the approval of the minutes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Good. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Sandy? Yeah, the next item is, we provided you via the website, our performance and expenditure report for the last 6 months. Just a couple of highlights, as you all are well aware, we've spent the bulk of our time finishing finally, the emotion plan and the Vision Zero Safety Action Plan. We also adopted our tip back, in June. We've completed 4 technical assistance projects in communities, including North Greenbush, Town of Ballston, City of Rensselaer, and Saratoga Springs. We've got 2 additional underway in Albany and Cohoes that are nearing completion now. We've done a lot of counts through our on-demand count program, which is still available to municipalities free of charge, so feel free to ask for any sorts of counts you need. We've worked with some of the work that Mark mentioned for the housing study analyses, was also supported by us and in partnership with Mark's team. We've also completed 4 regional or at least linkage planning studies in the town of Milton. The town center plan has been completed. Rotterdam's Curry Road and Gilderland Avenue multimodal study has been completed, and we've completed 2 complete street studies village-wide in the villages of Voorheesville and Castleton on Hudson. So that's just a quick update. All the details of all the rest of the work that's been completed are available in the full report.
Any questions? Great. So we have some tip amendments to be voted on. I'll kick it over to CDTA to talk about transit bus replacement and expansion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So as part of the TIP program, any amendment over needs to be approved over $3 million. So the program number is T17 Transit Bus Replacement for CDTA. This aligns with New York State DOT's recent funding announcement in September. So now what we are asking CDTA is requesting approval to add the MEP and the ATC funding to the TIP for the purchase of rolling stock for $5.9 million for the MEP and $1.6 million for the ATC for rolling stock purchases. So we need
Any
a motion to
questions?
approve that.
I'll move it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And we're now kicking it to
I believe
DOT?
Mike, unless you're deferring to Greg.
I can go over this. So the first one is I-87 pavement resurfacing from Western Avenue to Mohawk River. That is a cost increase that we have on that one, greater than $3 million. We've gone from 16.3 to $21 million with the updated cost data. Any questions on that one?
Are we gonna take them all together?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that in addition to that, there's a consolidation of some
Yeah,
projects.
so the second and third ones are 2 pins that are being consolidated for economy of scale. So this was the paving from the Mohawk River to exit 9 and then from exit 9 to exit 11, and they're being merged into one project. So that it'll be a slight increase on that, but it'll be we're changing the treatment too, but it's gonna go from a total of, they were 17.7 and 19.8, and now the combined is gonna be 21.3. So it's a lower treatment than we had initially planned.
So just to be clear, for those of you keeping score, that means we're resurfacing the Northway all the way from Western Avenue to exit 11 next year.
Yeah, this is being accelerated as part of the statewide effort to resurface more lane miles. So it's a big stretch of repaving from Western Ave all the way up to Malta.
So plan your commute times accordingly.
Yes, and these two, what action,
So should we do those and then do?
and then we'll do Congress.
Great. So any questions about those changes? Do I have a motion to approve?
We'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, great.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried.
Okay, and the third one is Route Two Congress Street Bridge over the Hudson. This is a new project which is gonna draw down our associated, it's associated with our regional multi-site bridge preservation set-aside project. And it's gonna be a single site specific project to address the Congress Street Bridge over the Hudson.
Do I have a motion?
So, Andrew?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Linda, I'm putting you for the second. Okay, thanks.
And now we have to, I believe, approve the safety target. setting.
Yeah, so this is something that we do each year. It's a federal requirement to consider the proposed NISDOT targets for the safety performance measures related to the number of fatalities and the fatality rate for the region and the state, the serious injuries and the serious injury rate, as well as non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized serious injuries. The targets that are being proposed is a reduction target of about 1.5%. There's a lot of math that goes on behind the scenes on this, but I did want to share with you folks just a quick summary of how this data is related to what's happening in the 4 counties here in the capital region. So the tables that you're seeing on screen reflects the region's fatality data, and the thing to pay attention to is the orange trend line. And you will note that's over the last 5 years, that trend line is increasing. You will also see the same increase for the fatality rate in the 4 county area. Similarly, you will see an increase in serious injuries. You will also see that in the serious injury rate. You will see the increase in more stark increase for bicycle and pedestrian fatalities. As well as for serious injuries. And I point that out because, you know, a target reduction of 1.5% doesn't sound like numerically a lot. But given our trends here in the region, we have a very serious challenge to try to meet these trends. And this final table that I'm showing you is straight out of our recently completed Vision Zero plan. And what I wanted to point out here, using basically the same timeframes, the New York State trends, everything in red is getting worse, everything in blue is getting better. You'll see how our region compares to these statewide trends, and remembering that the statewide trends include New York City. So as a region, this is a significant challenge. It's why we invested in the Vision Zero plan and why we will be continuing to make safety a priority here at our table. But we clearly have a problem now. This data is a couple years old, obviously. We've made some strides already, certainly, you know, investments in cities like the city of Albany through traffic calming and other tools. We've done a lot of work on Vision Zero, but you know, the trends, hopefully we'll start seeing these go down as we implement these plans, but I did want to emphasize the scale of the problem. Because this is something that we're going to have to really focus on as a region to start making start changing these regional trends. So it's important for us to adopt these targets today, but I just wanted to share with you some of the background, behind the scenes data of what's happening in the region.
Questions? Okay. Yes.
Do we know if, in terms of fatalities, if a decline in level of service at the region's hospitals is influencing that statistic?
Say that again, if how the hospitals fit in?
Yeah, if the fatality statistic, if the decline in level of service at our region's hospitals is influencing it.
Indirectly, it would take a kind of a research project to kind of make that correlation, especially with the feedback loop. A lot of the data that we use is at the point of the crash occurring. So a lot of the information, with the exception of the fatality data, generally is an initial assessment on scene. Fatalities are a little different because there's law here in New York about 30 days, and there's sort of a feedback loop within a 30-day period, but that's a much bigger challenge to try to make a correlation.
Yeah, the response times.
Yep. One of the pillars of the Vision Zero plan is to work on crash response, and crash clearance. So there are other initiatives as part of Vision Zero beyond the infrastructure that we tend to focus on here that are part of the Vision Zero.
I mean, one of the things I was most surprised about that results in better outcomes for people is having the ability to do blood transfusions in an ambulance.
Yeah.
The game-changing statistics that you having that ability is really something I'm glad the Transportation Council support.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have you looked at accidents where there's been a medical, where the person's had like a medical emergency?
Yeah, there's a now a dashboard, which I can show you on our website that cites all different kinds of causes and reasons for crashes. I can probably have Carrie, if you're listening in, maybe you can speak to that. She was listening.
Sorry.
That's okay. We can hear you.
Great. So we do have the crash viewer dashboard up on our website. The people having a medical emergency and before they get into a crash and then subsequently crashing did not come up as one of the primary factors in the data analysis that it's under. Yeah, yep. That didn't come up in the plan. I'm not actually sure if that is one of the things that is filterable through in the crash dashboard here. I don't think the numbers would be high enough to, if you were going to look at it by location, it might be useful at a regional level or at the statewide level to look at that though.
But thank you, that was a great entree into sharing that I was gonna share this later in the meeting, but we do have our data dashboard live on our website, which is, gives everybody in the public the ability to look at different crash statistics and information. You can zoom in and out of these maps, it's interactive. There's a lot of great information. I'm sure Carrie can offer her assistance in giving a tutorial at some point on how to use the data. I mean, we may set up a webinar or something to allow folks to learn how to use the database. But there's a lot of great information there that might be of interest to the group.
Great. So if there are no other questions, can I have a motion to approve the safety targets?
I move.
There's a second. Second, Henry, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. All right. Unified one.
Yes, so one of the things that we are going to be starting to work on now is the update of our Unified Planning Work Program, which is the document that outlines all the planning work that we undertake here, either by staff or through a consultant's assistance. So today I'm sort of introducing the first steps in the development process and some of our preliminary ideas, but we're looking for your input over the next month or two as we build the work plan for next year, because these are going to be the things that we're going to emphasize and work on to benefit all of you. As you probably can guess, a lot of it will be centered on the in-motion plan goals of safety, mobility, access, livability, and resilience. So in the kind of the broad spectrum of regional planning studies, clearly we're going to be continuing to work with our partners on some of the mega studies and engineering efforts going on for the Reimagine 787 study, 378 Bridge, the project in Schenectady over by the SUNY Schenectady area, implementing our Vision Zero plans, and obviously the in-motion plan. But specific to the Vision Zero is identifying uses for our TIP safety money funding set aside, and how we can use that seed money to jumpstart some next steps for implementing the Vision Zero plan, and wanting to continue to offer financial support for safety planning and complete streets, whether that be in the form of assisting communities with adopting 25-mile-per-hour speed limits, doing additional local analyses, whatever needs to be done, finding the resources to support that work. We're going to be doing a household travel survey for the region, as we support our model update. That'll be a big effort for us, but it's going to be a foundationally important effort to provide us a lot of data that complements some of these big data products we get now from technology sources that involve probes on your cell phone. But it complement, the intent here is to use both of these data sets to build better regional planning tools for our use here locally. We're also going to be embarking on developing a regional resilience improvement plan, not just focused on infrastructure related to flooding, but there's other types of challenges that we have. And how do we build a more resilient transportation system? So that's a possibility. We're also looking at perhaps developing, instead of focusing on a regional trails plan, which we already have, is expanding this notion into what we'll call an active transportation or complete streets plan for the region. And the idea here is a lot of times we go project by project, block by block when we're implementing a bike lane or a sidewalk or whatever that infrastructure might be. But how do we interconnect it, and how do we do that regionally, and how do we, given our limited resources, prioritize the streets that would be involved in that network? So that's something that we're interested in exploring. We've talked in the past here about the super low corridor study. That's still a priority of trying to identify corridors to move these very oversized, very overweight goods through the region, and we are hoping to launch that one sooner than later. And then we certainly have additional community planning work. As you know, planning study proposals are due tomorrow, actually. But along with that, all of that work, we're thinking about our technical assistance and additional planning support and the things that would be of most benefit to our communities to be used either as educational resources or for planning resources or support for any other local planning or other initiatives that are going on. And our technical assistance program has increased in popularity, doing very small scale but targeted initiatives in communities that can be as simple as, hey, I want to know how well this traffic signal is functioning, to as large scale as, can you do a little back of the envelope trail feasibility project for us? There's a wide range of things we can do with the technical assistance program, and we expect to invest more in that. I mentioned the on-demand account program. We're looking to, potentially invest more in that to get more user data for our planning. We're planning on holding a Tools of the Trade conference for our human services agency providers. We do that every other year. We're due for one next year, which is important for the mobility of seniors and folks with disabilities. Continue to do, in partnership with CDRPC, additional housing planning for the region, which we're learning a lot, and we're gaining access to new data sets that might be beneficial for communities to continue to think about these issues in their communities. For maybe more of our urban centers, thinking about a curb or parking management best practice guidance. There's a lot happening in this space. Parking management is always a challenge. Can we develop some resources for communities to kind of think about how to better address these issues in their communities? We need to think about the future of our equity advisory committee. After COVID, the committee kind of fell apart. We haven't had a lot of interest or requests, frankly, to revive it. But the spirit of what it was trying to do in the climate that we're in, how do we navigate moving forward with that committee? What does it look like? Traffic signal assessments and system performance reporting. I mean, I think operations is a major area of emphasis, which doesn't sound, it's not a big ticket planning idea, but there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to work with communities and signal owners on improving the effectiveness and efficiency of how the signals are operating. Partnering with CDTA to data mine the immense amount of data they're actually collecting now as signal owners in the region, and figuring out how we can assist operationally to improve transit signal priority, while also at the same time looking at the traffic flows on these streets, so that it all works together more efficiently than it is today. NISDA has proposed a traffic signal consultant set aside project, and we expect to partner with NISDA on that initiative as well. A future Albany Transit Center, there's some proposals for some interim solutions to the closure, if you will, of the current Greyhound station, but what's the long-term plan? You know, is what we're proposing today really going to be the final solution? Is there something else that needs to be reviewed? So we're thinking about that. Developing a next generation transportation demand management program. If you're not familiar with that term, that's really intended to develop incentives for folks to not be single occupant vehicle drivers. And use some of the exact things that Mike talked about in his presentation. How do we incentivize people to get out of those cars, use transit, use the bike system, use these other modes of transportation, and certainly walking and bicycling. And then, you know, we've heard a lot from communities recently in the region about concerns about e-bikes and e-scooters and regulating them and where they're being used and what types of vehicles are legal and what's not. So developing some more guidance and sort of best practices for that so that communities understand that there's some legal forms of these vehicles. Some are now referring to the higher end one as e-motos. They're not really e-bikes, they're really motorcycles. And on the street level, what does that mean for regulations and things like that? So these are some of the ideas that we're pitching for consideration. If having heard this list, there's something that you know in your community or the things that you're hearing from constituents that we should be aware of, that we should be thinking about as, hey, you know, I've heard this a lot and it might be beneficial to the region for us to invest some resources into that. We'd love to hear what those things are. That'll certainly be taken into consideration as we build work plan for next year. I'll stop there. Threw a lot at you.
Questions? Do you have any other transportation planning initiative update?
Yeah, just quickly, I did mention the planning stage solicitation deadline is tomorrow. In addition, the 5310 program deadline, submission deadline is tomorrow. If you missed the transportation alternatives program webinar this morning, there is a second one December 8th at 1 p.m. And again, if anybody's having it, you know, unable to attend either of those sessions because they are mandatory to apply, reach out to our DOT partners and they will work with you to set something up. And finally, we've posted a request for expressions of interest for the West Avenue Complete Street Study in Saratoga Springs. So we're moving forward with that. And I'm stop there.
Great. So the RPC?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't state that, you know, really, I'm just the messenger here, and all the fine work that I'm going to be speaking about would not be possible without the leadership of Mark DeLeon and the excellent, hardworking, and truly talented staff at the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. So with that, I think everybody may have picked up a copy of the Regional Comprehensive Climate Action Plan that we recently published. In addition, there's an online portal that's a companion piece to that. And both the plan and the portal provide resources to communities and industry sectors to take action to address and prepare for issues related to climate change. Moving along, CDRPC recently completed a curbside EV charging suitability study for the city of Albany. The study targeted neighborhoods that include more than 50% renters. Like a lot of work that we've been doing, was jointly funded with the Capital Region Transportation Council through the Technical Assistance Program. We recently developed foundational data which facilitated the preliminary award of more than $13 million for broadband expansion to underserved and unserved areas in the region. At the end of September, we were able to announce the first batch of project awards to internet service providers. And these awards will connect more than 2,000 previously unserved or underserved homes and businesses in the region to the internet. Lastly, as a complementary measure to other ongoing work related to regional housing, the Capital District Regional Planning Commission is embarking on a regional zoning code analysis for the purpose of examining barriers to the development of accessory dwelling units on given parcels of land. More to come on that.
Right.
Is that?
Any questions? Okay. DOT. Oh, no, the CDTA next, sorry, Frank.
Well,
CDTA's
I
next.
mean, we took a lot of time, so. Just a couple of adds to what Mike said about our TDP, you know. One of the tenets of the TDP was the service realignment. We just launched our second phase, November 30th, and really the highlight of that was the conversion of Flex from fixed route in Saratoga. So that's, that was really the biggest thing that we're proud of and watching now. A couple other accomplishments are infrastructure projects on the BRTs, the 80 Broadway station and the Harmony stations are, putting the final touches on those. So they really came out nice. Appreciate everybody's work between the council, DOT and the city and the county of Albany. So, if you're out there, you see those, and that's all I have.
Right. Now you can go.
Okay, sorry, Mike.
Okay, in addition to our Northway paving next year, you can watch out for a few other things that are gonna be happening. We've got a pair of bridges over the Northway that we had a bid opening for a few weeks ago, and we expect those to be awarded. This is Riverview Road over the Northway and Nelson Ave Extension over the Northway, both in Saratoga County. They're gonna be replaced starting next year. We had a little bit of $18.2 million, which was about $2 million below our engineer's estimate. We also have more paving, which is on I-90 from Corporate Woods to I-87. It's gonna be paved as well. And we had a little bit on that, $10.6 million, which is $2 million over our estimate. Both of those should be awarded shortly, and all that work will be going on next year in addition to the Northway paving.
So if you work at the Empire State Plaza, you will be driving through paving, starting at Corporate Woods all the way to exit 11 if you live in that part of the
That's right.
region.
Just move into Albany.
More reasons to come
Hey,
south. To be fair, yes. It's nighttime paving. It's still a lot of paving.
The
Throughway.
Thruway, you're up, Michael.
So if you're traveling Castleton Bridge, that is back open to live traffic on both sides. We going eastbound, there is down to single lane. We're still finishing up steel repairs and they gotta take down the safe span. So that will be ongoing till probably June. And exit 25 and 25A, the safety improvements there are still ongoing. The steel should be coming in soon to put up the gantries, and then they are on time to finish in February. That's all I got.
And our friends from the airport and from the Port District Commission are not here.
Here today.
Any other regional planning activities that we need to know about? All right, Sandy, back to you.
So the next item is related to the nominating committee. As you may be aware, this is Mayor Sheehan's last meeting with us as our policy board chair, as she is moving on from her role as mayor. But we did want to, first of all, thank you for your 11 years of service to the Transportation Council. And I wanted to present you with this this token of our appreciation. I know it's a big time commitment to devote time to us. We speak in a lot of lingo and numbers and not always the most exciting stuff, but we think it's exciting.
Thank you.
But I just really wanted to I appreciate your guidance, your assistance, and your support of the Transportation Council. We've enjoyed working with you. And I wish you the best in your next endeavors.
Thank you. And I run a short meeting, so
so we are going to be looking for a new policy board chair next year. So if anyone who is a member, a voting member, is interested in that role, feel free to reach out to me next couple of weeks. We will be convening a nominating committee to make a recommendation by our next meeting. So at our March meeting, there will be a nominee that will hopefully be appointed as the new policy board chair. And if you'd like more information on what the role involves, again, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
All right. Upcoming meetings are on your agendas. Is there any other business that anyone needs to raise? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, sir. We're adjourned. Hearing no objections.
Second.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's right, for the adjournment.
I got
There we go.
my father.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we'd be
Thank
here
you, Mayor.
all night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a happy holiday.